There comes a moment not with noise, but with stillness when the truth finally arrives. Not for you, but for them, the ones who looked you in the eyes and chose to betray you, who traded your trust for convenience, who mistook your loyalty for weakness and your forgiveness for permission. They thought they walked away unscathed, that by wounding you they somehow won. But life doesn't operate on short-term illusions. It has a structure: moral, spiritual, psychological. And when that structure is violated, the consequences are never far behind. Because betrayal doesn't end when they leave, it begins. And not just for you, for them. The real price isn't paid in the moment. It's paid in silence, in the still hours of the night, in the cracks that begin to form in their own mind, in the absence of peace. And make no mistake, they'll search for it, in distractions, in achievements, in fleeting pleasures. But no matter where they go, there's one truth they can't outrun. You don't betray someone who gave you their heart and walk away whole. Betrayal is not a moment, it's a fracture in the moral fabric of the soul. Betrayal is often misunderstood as a single act, a lie, a secret, a turning of the back. But it's not just something someone does, it's something that redefines who they are. It's not a moment in time. It's a fracture, deep and internal, not only in the relationship they damaged, but in the very structure of their own character. And once that fracture begins, it spreads, slowly, quietly, but inevitably. When someone betrays a person who trusted them, they aren't just violating a bond, they're walking away from the very standards that gave their life integrity. Because to betray someone who offered love, loyalty, or honesty is to reject the higher parts of yourself. That betrayal might feel like an escape in the moment, a path toward freedom or advantage, but it leaves behind a wound that doesn't simply heal with time, especially not in the betrayer. People often imagine that the one who is betrayed is the only one left broken. They picture them shattered, trying to make sense of the pieces. But what they don't see, and what life will eventually reveal, is that the betrayer has cracked something just as vital inside themselves: their alignment with truth, with decency, and with the kind of person they once believed they were. And here's where the deception deepens: not the betrayal itself, but the illusion that it carried no cost. The one who betrays often walks away with a false sense of triumph. They think they've won, that they've taken control. But beneath that surface confidence is a spiritual corrosion that begins almost immediately. Their soul now carries weight, the kind that doesn't show up in the mirror, but in moments of quiet, in the absence of peace, in the disconnection from self. You see, peace isn't found in escaping discomfort or exploiting another's vulnerability. It's found in the consistent alignment between your actions and your principles. And when those two things fall out of sync, when someone knows deep down they violated something sacred, no amount of distraction, pleasure, or external success can restore the peace they lost. It's not just guilt they carry, it's disintegration, a slow unraveling of who they thought they were. This is why betrayal has consequences that reach far beyond broken relationships. It leads to a broken self. Over time, the betrayer may look whole on the outside, laughing, achieving, moving forward. But inside, that fracture widens, because you cannot walk away from truth without paying a price. You cannot betray a heart that loved you and expect to walk away untouched. So while you rebuild yourself piece by honest piece, know this: they are not free. They are not whole. Because betrayal doesn't just shatter trust, it fractures the soul of the one who commits it. And that is a wound only truth can expose, and only remorse can begin to heal. The weight of conscience is not visible, but it is inescapable. When someone betrays you, the damage is real. You feel it immediately in your chest, in your thoughts, in the way the world suddenly becomes unfamiliar. But for the one who caused that pain, the consequences do not always arrive in that same instant. And that's what makes betrayal so deceptive. From the outside, it may look like they've moved on, that life rewards them, while you're left to heal from the wreckage. But what cannot be seen is often what weighs the most. The conscience, that inner voice, the moral compass we all carry, doesn't scream in public. It whispers in private. And no matter how far they run or how well they mask it, the person who betrays someone they once cared for is not free from the psychological burden of their own actions. Because the conscience keeps records, quietly, relentlessly, and with no tolerance for lies. Over time, this inner disturbance begins to grow. It starts in small moments, hesitation in their thoughts, discomfort in their silence, and unease they can't quite name. They'll try to explain it away, blame circumstances, justify their choices, but explanations don't cancel truth. Deep down, they know what they did. They know who they became in that moment. And even if the world never holds them accountable, their conscience will. The peace they once had, the kind that comes from living in alignment with one's own values, is fractured. And no external distraction can permanently silence the disruption. They may fill their lives with noise, relationships, entertainment, work, even success. But the conscience isn't fooled by motion, it waits. And in the still moments, in the quiet hours between distractions, it returns with precision. That's the tragedy they didn't foresee. Betrayal doesn't end with an action, it creates an echo. It reshapes how they view themselves, how they sleep at night, how they relate to others. It breeds a disconnection not just from you, but from their own soul. They may laugh louder, love harder, work longer, but peace will not stay. Because peace requires honesty, and you cannot be at peace with the version of yourself you no longer respect. Eventually, they may even begin to forget what started this unrest. But the symptoms will remain: a chronic dissatisfaction, a tension beneath their smiles, a restlessness they can't resolve. It's the conscience still speaking, still asking, why did you do that to someone who only wanted the best for you? And in that question lies the verdict. Not a punishment from you, not karma from the world, but the natural consequence of stepping outside one's own integrity. The conscience doesn't shout, but it never forgets. And while the world may move on, their soul remains tethered to that moment of betrayal and to the truth they tried to bury. The peace they thought they stole from you becomes the torment they carry. In the aftermath of betrayal, it often feels like you're the only one who lost something. Your peace, your sense of safety, your trust in others, all of it shattered. And what makes it even harder is watching the one who hurt you walk away as if untouched. As if the peace they stripped from your world somehow found a new home in theirs. But here is what time always reveals: what they took from you does not become theirs. Peace is not transferable. It's not something that can be stolen and worn like a prize. When someone betrays you, they don't take your peace, they only forfeit their own. What they carry forward is not stillness, it's noise, restlessness, a haunting. At first they might feel relief, that temporary sense of power that comes from believing they've escaped consequences. But peace is not the absence of chaos. It is the presence of alignment with truth, with responsibility, with moral clarity. And betrayal severs that alignment completely. They may not feel it immediately, but they will. Not in one dramatic moment, but in thousands of quiet ones. You see, when someone wounds a person who meant them no harm, who stood by them, believed in them, protected them, they don't just walk away from the relationship. They walk away from something sacred in themselves. And the more they try to fill that void with distraction, the more elusive peace becomes. It begins a subtle discomfort, a vague sense that something is off. Relationships feel hollow. Achievements don't satisfy. Laughter doesn't last. They might even tell themselves they're happy, convince others they're fine. But underneath the surface, a war is beginning, not with the world, but with themselves. The conscience does not go silent after betrayal. It speaks in symptoms: irritability, discontent, emotional distance, a hunger that no pleasure can satisfy. Because when you betray someone who gave you peace, you inherit the opposite. You inherit the consequences of disconnection, not just from that person, but from your own moral center. And this torment isn't about guilt alone. Guilt can be confronted. It can lead to growth. But many don't face it. They avoid it. They run from it. And in doing so, they turn it into torment, a haunting presence that follows them from one situation to the next, showing up in their relationships, in their failures, in their inability to feel settled. So while you may have spent nights wrestling with the pain they left behind, understand this: your healing leads to freedom. Theirs leads to fragmentation. Because peace is not the reward for betrayal. It is the cost. And the longer they pretend they got away with something, the deeper the unrest takes root. They didn't take your peace. They forfeited their own. And now they live in the shadow of the very stillness they once destroyed. True strength is proven by those who endure betrayal, not those who inflict it. There's a lie buried deep in the act of betrayal, a lie the betrayer tells themselves to justify what they've done. They convince themselves that walking away, turning cold, or choosing selfishness is strength. That self-preservation at the cost of someone else's trust is power. But real strength doesn't look like betrayal. It looks like endurance, like standing in the fire and not letting it burn your soul. To betray someone takes a moment, but to survive betrayal, to feel every ounce of pain, confusion, and humiliation, and still choose to heal, that takes a strength few ever understand. Because betrayal doesn't just wound your heart, it shatters your worldview. It breaks your sense of safety. And rebuilding that from the ruins requires a kind of inner power that no one can see, but everyone eventually feels. The one who inflicted the damage may look stronger at first. They move quickly. They seem decisive. They may even seem happy. But what they don't realize is this: it takes far more courage to sit with pain than to cause it. It takes far more strength to carry the weight of love, loyalty, and disappointment and still not become bitter than it does to abandon all of it for comfort or ego. Endurance doesn't look glamorous. It's quiet. It's often lonely. It's the hours you spend questioning everything. The days when you doubt your worth. The nights when you wrestle with the urge to hate someone you once loved. But every time you choose not to become like them, every time you choose growth over revenge, truth over bitterness, healing over destruction, you are proving your strength in ways they never will. Because the path of the betrayer is easy in the beginning but costly in the end. They avoid discomfort by creating it for others. But avoidance is not strength. It's fear in disguise. It's the inability to face the weight of honesty. It's choosing the illusion of freedom over the responsibility of character. And that choice always comes back to haunt them. Meanwhile, your pain becomes the forge that shapes you. You may feel like you're breaking, but what's really happening is transformation. You're becoming someone who knows suffering and still chooses compassion. Someone who has every reason to close off, but finds the courage to stay open. That kind of strength is not loud, but it is unforgettable. So never confuse noise with power. They may shout louder, move faster, and pretend longer, but in the end, they are running from themselves. You, however, faced yourself in the fire. You held your own broken heart and chose to rebuild it. That is the kind of strength life remembers. That is the kind of strength that outlasts betrayal.